Hello, lovelies. I'm back. Hello, family, and welcome to my channel. I found another interesting article that I would like to share with you all. And yeah, I got this idea from a viewer who wanted me to go more into how slavery might have began and how it took place here in the Americas. So I thought I'll go ahead and do some research. I remember Tunjon's one. He has a channel on YouTube. He touched on Jamestown. He always mentioned that Jamestown is the key to understanding the slave trade and how it actually began. So I thought I'll, do some research. Now, this particular um, website is like a teaching site. I think it's a really good one, even though it's been gray washed pretty much, and anything that has been written by great Caucasians is going to be very biased, extremely biased, because a lot of the stuff that's been written about history has been based on solely on great Caucasians from their perspective, their opinions, and so it's going to only be beneficial to them. And also it's slanted towards Native Americans, which are the Mongoloids, to make it look like and appear that they were the only ones that were here. And the whole goal was to exclude the American Aborigines out of the history books, was to justify slavery. In the current research and findings of our Aborigines, American Aborigines being scattered throughout the Americas, is now showing that we were already over here. We're closer related to the Australian Aborigines and the Pacific Islanders and Malaysia. So we were already over here. And so I just wanted to go ahead and talk about this. This talks about the 13 colonies, and it starts with St. Augustine. I guess that's where they first established their first colony in 1565. And it just goes on down to the very bottom of to Georgia, which was established in 1732. So the Indians were fighting the Europeans when they first got here because they were still in their land. And I read this article and I was just like, oh my, it's based solely on Caucasians' point of view. They failed to realize that, you're coming into people's lands and invading them. This were the indigenous people's home, and you just came over and set up shop here without their permission and their wishes, and just did whatever you want to do. That's like someone just bursting into your home, sitting on a couch and helping themselves to everything, and not paying, not asking or anything, just invading, which is totally rude and disrespectful. And you see this throughout the article, and they make it look like the Indians were just attacking them for no reason, and there was a real reason. They were stealing everything from them, and also were enslaving them at the same time, which is they try to make it look like Africans were brought over here when actuality, the truth, we already got documentations after documentation showing that they didn't bring no Africans over. They were just kidnapping the indigenous people and throwing them into slavery. And yeah, and it's already been proven that not that many Africans were brought over here. So that's why we're teaching and re-educating our people now, going to these websites and rewriting history exactly the way it's supposed to be. Should have been in the first place, but we are in the process of making it right. Our ancestors through storytelling throughout generations have told us that we were Aborigines. The science and technology with DNA is showing that we are the American Aborigines, and we've been here for hundreds of thousands of years. But let's start this article. I'm not sure who the author is, but it's just pretty much in timeline of what took place. I'm gonna start with Jamestown because I think that's the place of more significant. These two is them just coming in and getting established, but right here it starts to including more of the Indians, going into more detail of what happened to the American Aborigines. It says here, the colonies Jamestown established in 1607. The Spanish were the first Europeans to establish permanent colonies in North America in the 1500s. They had dominated the region since the time of Christopher Columbus. The English had tried unsuccessfully to establish colonies of their own to compete with their Spanish rivals. In 1607, England finally got the opportunity with Jamestown, Virginia, became the first permanent settlement in North America, which they did not get the Indians' permission. They just came over here and took land. Very rude and very disrespectful. Okay. Evil. Lured to the New World with the promises of wealth, most colonies were unprepared for the constant challenges that faced with drought, starvation, threat of attack, and disease. With the help of stern leadership and ludicrous cash crops, the colony eventually succeeded. In doing so, the colonies paved way to two powerful institutions that will have far-reaching effects to American government and culture, democracy, and slavery. Yes, all of this, they just pretty much stole the knowledge from the indigenous people. They wouldn't survive at all. They didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom or the know-how to survive in this land because they did not know, how to navigate this continent pretty much. It was new to them. They didn't know what they were doing. They were very ignorant and very dirty, filthy people, according to the indigenous people, unclean and unkept. Everybody had to teach them how to take a bath. And so everybody had to teach them how to do what they did. And that's the only reason why they survived anyhow, due to the hospitality of the Indians, even though their nice and kind ways was not helpful, because what these evil entities have done was came in and stole everything, hoarded the resources, and killed off people, murdered people, and enslaved their own people, enslaved the indigenous people into the Americas. So anyway, I was looking over here. It's a sign here. It says a way of wealth containing, scroll down too far. Wealth containing 6 principal vocations or callings in which every good was hacked or something like that. It's some sort of sign that they have. It says a Virginia company poster advertises for volunteers to settle the New World. See? And see, they did not discuss this with the Indians, the Aborigines. The American Aborigines were here first. Prior to the Mongoloids, they try to put Mongoloids as first. We were here first. And so they did not discuss any of this with the indigenous people at all. They just came over unannounced and just took over. That's pretty much what took place. Well, let's continue. It says the British colonization was set in motion with James I of England. A granted charter to Virginia Company in 1606. The group was a for-profit joint stock company given the task of settling Virginia in the New World and providing supplies and ships for the voyage. The company selected Christopher Newport to lead the expedition. In May 1607, Newport brought 3 ships into Chesapeake Bay and landed approximately 100 passengers on a swampy peninsula along the James River. Wow. They even renamed the river. The river probably wasn't even called that. The indigenous people probably had a different name. They just come into a place that's not theirs and just set up shop. Very evil. The settlers built a wooden fort named James Fort. Yeah. How can you name something that's not yours? People were already there. In an effort to protect themselves from the Spanish enemies. Wow. And then they put this picture here. I guess that I noticed they always put pictures that are extremely fair skinned or lighter, or I noticed they put pictures where you can't tell what ethnicity the person is. They do that a lot with a lot of these encyclopedias, but there are tons of pictures of the real people who they really look like. And some of the Europeans didn't know how to draw very well, how to draw ethnic features. So they drew them as white, as looking like great Caucasians, like themselves, even though they weren't. Studies have shown that, the indigenous people were a different race. They were not Caucasoids. So, or, most of the people that were over here on the East Coast were the Mongoloids. Not the Mongoloids. They were the Aborigines. So, because they were the ones that got enslaved, because if it was the other way around, it'd be more Mongoloids being enslaved, but that didn't happen that way. Obviously, it was more Aborigines here on the East Coast, and they got enslaved. And here are the pictures to prove it. I'll bring out over here. I Google search American Aborigines of Jamestown. And so I just wanted to pull up some of these pictures. Let me scroll down here. Of course, that's a picture of our ancestor, who we are, the American Australianoid. Okay. They knew this. This painting is very old and around that time period, so they knew that we were the Aborigines. Here's a statue right here of Powhatan. He got our Negro features, Aboriginal. And here's some more pictures of a map right here up close, showing exactly what the indigenous people look like. And then these are the people here. They show exactly what they look like here. This is us, the American Aborigines, right here. And this is the Native American. Now, they try to say Native Americans were the only ones over here, and they weren't. Okay? I don't even think they were on this East Coast at all. Tell you the truth, because if they were, they would have been the ones getting enslaved. They weren't. So obviously, I read all the articles in different encyclopedias, state encyclopedias. I went through Georgia Encyclopedia, Alabama Encyclopedia. I'm gonna go through some more. All I'm saying that the Indians kept on moving away in fear of being enslaved. Okay, and then they mentioned kidnapping of the indigenous people and throwing them in perpetual servitude, which is again slavery. And, you don't see these Mongoloids in slavery as much. You see us, the Aborigines. So we were the ones over here. We are the Indians. Okay? That was what was over here. And that's who they saw. And these are the people that they enslaved. All right? This makes sense. Okay? It wasn't these folks over here. Obviously, it wasn't. I don't know where they were. They're a mystery. We have to figure that out. I don't know if they lived among them or what, but I know that they didn't bring us off on no slave ship. Here are the pictures of the Indians right here. And these plantations on the East Coast. These are the Aborigines. People are Afros. They try to say, oh, they were Africans. No, they were already over here. All right, we were already over here. All the archaeological finds, scientific findings that they're finding now are proving that we were here. But I'm not going to stroll any further down. I think I showed y'all a gif of it. But, yeah. They don't show all the pictures. And here go another one. That's the Tobacco Indians. That was people in Virginia, Jamestown. That's who they saw. Okay, these are Mohawk Indians, which makes more sense as us, the Aborigines, because their hair stands up and it's fluffed. Mongoloid Indians' hair don't lay down. They wouldn't even fluff up like that if they had it. It'd be difficult for them to have their hair to stick up. But anyway, But I want to just show you that. Here goes some more pictures right here. New DNA proves African Americans. I gotta check that out. Here goes another one showing that we are indigenous here. And there go the more of the Indians that were over here. But let's go back. Just want to show you all some pictures. But everything is so heavily gray wash all throughout Google, all throughout books, because gray Caucasians have always written and put down whatever they want to, because the people who were over here couldn't fend for themselves because they didn't know how to write English and speak English. So if you didn't write it and then dispute them on this misnomers and false histories and lies, of course they're going to write everything to benefit them and make it look like, oh, we so innocent, even though we were evil invaders and we killed a bunch of people and we slaved the indigenous people. And then we erased them out of history books because we'll make it look like Mongoloids were here and we were here too, and y'all weren't. And then say that we're the Americans when y'all are not indigenous here. But anyway, let's continue. It says here the settlers were immediately plunged to a struggle for survival. During the first summer, disease took a devastating toll. The colony also endured regular attacks from the neighboring Pocahontas. This is such a joke. It was actually the other way around, you guys. Everything was told in reverse. The Gray Caucasians never did tell the truth. The Gray Caucasoids were going in there attacking the Indians and stealing their crops because they couldn't grow their own food and know how to have knowledge. So they stole from them, stole their land, their property, and everything else, and spread a disease and then enslaved the ones that survived. That's what happened. The James River was contaminated with salt water. For those who drank from it suffered from salt poisoning. Just the onset of autumn, the settlers found that they did not have enough food to sustain themselves through the winter. Not enough land was cleared, nor sufficient crops planted to harvest, because too many settlers have focused on efforts of searching for gold instead. See, that tells you they were not very smart, very stupid, actually, if you didn't think about food. And so, that's not common sense. For people who has high IQs and supposed to know everything, you would think they'll think about food before trying to search. It's just an example of greed. These explorers came in to steal and rob this continent of its resources. They didn't care. So it says the situation was elevated somewhat by the leadership of Captain John Smith, who had 12 months compelled his fellow colonists to live up to the obligations by planting corn, strengthening defenses, and building shelters for themselves and goods. He instituted a policy of strict discipline, telling the colonists that he will not work, shall not eat. So you just, so they're trying to paint him as a hero when she didn't do nothing. All they did was go over there and try to force the Indians to teach them how to do stuff because they didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom or the know-how to do it. And that's how they survived. And if anything, it would make more sense talking about the natives were attacking them. They were attacking the Indians. Because if your ass, I'm sorry, excuse my French, let me be quiet. If you could not find food and of course you're gonna go to the Indians and try to steal from them, especially if you try to take the land. So, and the resources. So they probably went over there stealing from the Aborigines and taking their food and stuff. That's what happened. A lot of this don't make no sense. They want to paint this image that they were such heroes and they did such great. You didn't. You didn't do nothing great. And we're going to tell the truth and get rid of these lies. In December of 1607, Captain Smith had a small group of settlers embarked on a mission to explore the area and trade with local American Indians. They were surprised and captured by Powhatan hunting party, which had led previous attacks on the colonists. Yeah, what did y'all do, colonists? Y'all were going over there harassing people. That's what would happen. All the men at the Smith party were slain, except for Smith himself, who had taken to Chief Powhatan, the emperor of the Powhatan tribes. According to Smith's account, he was about to be executed. Chief Powhatan's daughter, Pocahontas, convinced her father not to kill him. Some historians speculate that Smith mistook an adoption ceremony with a captive undergo symbolic death in order to be saved and reborn as an adopted tribe member for an execution. Other scholars question whether the event took place at all. See, they were judging these people and didn't even know their customs or culture. Instead of trying to get to know and understand their customs and culture and understand their way, they just did everything with speculation, like they do pretty much now on this very day with all these lies and false pretense of what they think a person is just by looking at them. So, yeah. And then also I was reading somewhere else in another article not too long ago. I think I did a video on it. Yeah, they told all this in reverse. They made it look like Pocahontas. In some stories I'm hearing that he kidnapped Pocahontas. Then I heard that Pocahontas was extremely young. Who is this? John Smith was a pedophile. Because Pocahontas, they said she was really young, like 10 years old or something. Yeah. But anyway, let's go down. Let's scroll down. It says she might have been 12, somewhere around in there. Don't take my word for it, y'all. I know she was really young. Extremely young. In the fall of 1609, Smith was forced to return to England for medical treatment after a gunpowder explosion left him with severe burns and departure relations. Okay, let me stroll down here. I'm going to skip over that. It says here, Chief Powhatan attempted to drive the settlers out of the area by starving them. His Confederacy stopped trading food and attacked anyone who ventured outside the fort. The position of colonies was particularly precarious because they still were not self-sufficient and relied heavily on American Indians for food. The bitter, devastating winter followed Smith's departure and became known as the Starving Time. Only 60 Jamestown colonists survived to see the spring of 1610. In early June of the year, the remaining settlers decided to abandon the colony. However, if they were about to sail out to Chesapeake Bay, they were ordered back by 3 English ships, bringing new governor 150 colonists and ample supply of food for a year. Yeah, see? And so it tells you that they were struggling when they first got here. So they didn't know anything. They didn't know about this new continent or anything. But it says here, the new governor, Thomas West, known as Lord the War, institution rigorous discipline aimed to make Jamestown more self-sufficient. This is just pretty much talking about them trying to establish the colony and everything, and learning crops and everything. And it says here, this is a thought, a note here. It says, did you know in 1616 the colonists shipped 2,300 pounds of tobacco to England? Just 2 years later, 49,000 pounds of exports. Yeah, just because of the indigenous people. Y'all didn't know how to do it. You stole the knowledge from the indigenous people, and they did the work while y'all sat on your butts and did nothing, because every picture shows them sitting on their behinds while the indigenous people do the work. And then right here, they was just talking about the kidnapping of Pocahontas. See up here, it's like they double lie. They talking about, oh, she felt sorry for him and made it look like she was willing to be with him. But then when you go down here, you see that she was actually kidnapped. Right here. She looked very pale right here. She's probably put on that pale face makeup that the Europeans like to throw in their face, during that time period, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, but this is just talking about the kidnapping of her. This is a very long article. I'm going to put a link next to it so y'all can read it for yourselves. But it's just talking about, how she was kidnapped and everything, how she went to Europe. And it's how they voted in their elections and stuff, which excluded the Indians mostly, the Aborigines, But anyway, then it strolls down here. I'm going to stroll down here. It says, unlike the introduction of self-government, the second major development of 1619 had far more negative consequences. The first Africans were brought over for the purpose of enslavement. You're right. Okay, this is a lie. All they did was start enslaving the indigenous people. That's all they did. Because you can see this. Let me take y'all over here again. The reason why I'm saying that, you go over here, you look at this picture here, around the same time period, you're going to see, let's see if I can stroll down. This thing going to cooperate. I was trying to show you that picture, that plantation picture again. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay. You look over here. Let me move me out the way so y'all can see. There go the plantation right here. And they were doing the tobacco. That's how they got those tobaccos. They talking about, oh, we got a tobacco and everything. And how they start off with few and then and it grew a lot because they had the indigenous people working for free. Pretty much. They were enslaving them, pretty much trick back them from indigenous from being indentured to being slave. They became very evil. And these are the people that were doing it. Right here. And see? And they try to hide these pictures and make it look like there was only Mongoloids here. And everybody know that it wasn't just Mongoloids. And a lot of these pictures were drawn after the time period, showing them, And a lot of these people that claims to be Indian, I think they're mixed with European, with gray Caucasians. Because they hide all the original pictures. We're just now starting to see these published pictures that's actually in museums and stuff that has been hidden for centuries because they didn't want the truth to be out. And here they are. They're going to statue. But anyway, let's go on and let's continue. Let's go back over here and look again. And then it says nearly half the Africans, which we're going to replace, the Aborigines, were purchased and remained in Jamestown. And it wasn't that, and if they did bring Africans, they only brought over 9 Africans, if I'm not mistaken. If that many. But anyway, you'll think they brought over thousands and hundreds. They didn't even bring that many over. Like I said, they didn't bring that. All they were doing was capturing the indigenous people. That makes more logical sense. If you got people of color that has woven hair, that's they don't even have to have woven hair. Darker complexion, that's all they did was put, they captured them and put them in slavery. That's the easiest. They too lazy to go and plant their own food and do their own crops. So what makes you think they went all the way to Africa to get the people when they got people here? It just makes more sense to capture the indigenous people. Common sense. Really. We're not going to fall for the stupid okie doke of just agreeing with you just because you were writing the narrative. No, we're going to replace that and put more facts. It says arriving to August in the middle of tobacco harvest probably meant that they were sent to work in the tobacco fields with gray servants. Due to lack of record, it's unclear. Those records probably destroyed if they had any. They didn't want to leave that. Unclear whether Africans, which are not, it's unclear whether the American Aborigines were the first slaves or the Africans were first slaves, or if they held the position of indentured service, which were eligible for freedom after giving a number of years. Substantial historical records of slavery in English colonies do not appear until the 1640s. Yeah. They were just doing that because they want to hide the fact that they were still kidnapping the indigenous people and throwing them in slavery. That's what that was all about. And it says here, let's see, the period between the American Indians and the colonies has shattered with Pocahontas successors. Opry Canoff in charge. O.P. Canoff, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, realized that the settlers was not here just for trade. They were here to live on the land permanently and continue to expand their land holdings. The peace that came of John Rolfe's marriage to Pocahontas, see, that's another problem they had, was the intermarrying. And see, that's how you get these half-breeds, which I speculate a lot of these fair-skinned people are the mixed race of the American Aborigines with the gray Caucasians, which get these people, these half-breeds that they have on these in these tribes that they have, that's getting all these land rights. And it says here, land rights and monetary rights, along with the $5 Indians. And that's what they did. That's how they got into these tribes and sort of messed it up and weakened these tribes by having too many gray Caucasoids marrying in and trying to bring colorism. That's when colorism probably started, when they started missing half-breeds and the gray Caucasoids want to be in charge over everything and they want to say just because they married Indian that they are indigenous, which is not true. Gray Caucasians were not originally from here. Just because you married and have a few little babies that are half-breeds doesn't mean that you are an American. You're not. You're still an invader, and you are pretty much an illegal alien, just like you call everybody else. You know, you're not here from here either. But anyway, considered to be integrated societies, beginning with Christianizing the native people. That's the indoctrination. See, that's what that indoctrination, bringing this these fake religions and grey-washing religion to fit that narrative. The American natives felt differently, however. You see, they're trying to impose their beliefs and mindset onto people and trying to prevent them from having their indigenous roots. And that's why they was trying to constantly pull us as American Aborigines from our indigenous roots, because they want to make sure that we don't realize where we come from, the actual truth of our actual history. They want to just make it look like that we were just over here as slaves, and when we were actually the indigenous people that were over here. But it says here, on March 22nd, Powhatan's Indians attacked the smaller English settlement and scattered plantations along with the James River, murdering 347 children. Justly so. And they don't never mention how many Aborigines they killed. How many copper-colored people did you kill? Okay, that's what they need to include in this. They always showing pictures of the Indians attacking them, but in actuality, it was the other way around. The gray Caucasoids were going in their villages and harassing and killing them and kidnapping their children. Nobody was kidnapping them like that. They were kidnapping. Yeah, I don't believe it one bit. I believe that most of the gray Caucasians were doing all the killing, and that's why we need to have our own platform and showing the gray Caucasian attacking the Indian. And that's with guns and everything. Because they try to go, oh, we were victims. You never were victims. You came over here and stole and pillaged. That's all you did. And it says, not only the masquerades done the colonists with such massive loss of life, really, as opposed to how many Indians, how many Aborigines did y'all kill? Probably thousands. but created food shortage for the coming winter because the killings occurred just before the planting season, since surviving males were needed to guard the duty. Malnutrition, disease, and additional American Indians attack was responsible for the death of another 400 colonists during the winter of 1622 and 1623, and justly so. Y'all were invading and taking over their land. That's not your land. You got Europe. You could have went to Europe and went over there and planted your food. Instead of coming over there hoarding there, trying to hoard everything. What you're doing today. The colonists was retaliating over the next few years, killing more American Indians than the number of English who were murdered during the Jamestown massacre. Sorry. And we're gonna stroll down. Wow, see, that's why I wanted to show you how this whole story has been gray washed, and to put gray Caucasoids in the limelight to get this false narrative that they never did anything wrong, that they always were perfect, when in actuality, that's why I'll never call them white, because white means pure and godlike, and these people are not pure and godlike. We'll call them gray. So they, since they're able to write down what they want to say and write down from their point of view only, without any other persons to tell them otherwise, they're going to continue to write this way and have it slanted from a very biased point of view. So this will never be factual, ever, because it doesn't include any of the findings, the proof that supports. All the pictures are gray washed. It's still showing the same old narrative. When in actuality, they show from bones of Aborigines being here. Why is not more paintings or artworks of Aborigines on these pictures? And it got pictures of people with afros and everything with feathers, and they had posters saying runaway Indian on them, and you was trying to get them for slaves, and these people had afros with feathers in their head. That's proof, even down to the emblem of America. Evidence that's just showing over and over again, that's been hidden from us, that's now coming out to the light, that we were already over here. And a lot of these stories are just totally white, gray wash, showing, gray Caucasoids being the superhero when they're not. They were the invaders, and they killed off a bunch of people. And not owning up and facing to the fact that they have done this. They killed thousands of people, maybe even millions, in these attacks. And then they enslaved millions. We already know that. And they erased the indigenous people's history. And then to the point where everybody, we have to fight to let people know that we already know we're indigenous here. Even though they want to keep it hidden, but the gig gets up, we already know. We already know that we were over here. And so that's why we do these videos to educate our young people the truth and how everything is just totally gray wash. We have to rewrite their history books to include the truth and the facts. And it says here, the repeated Indian attacks of the plantation prompted 200 colonists to come together to protect themselves. Yeah, you want to protect yourselves. You've always been protected. You already had gunpowder. You just want to keep the Indians from being able to have gunpowder. That's what happened. And then and I'm going to scroll down, you guys. It's just talking about this guy here, Berkeleys Rebellion, who attacked the Indians. So I'm going to scroll down. If y'all want to read that part, you can scroll down. It says here, Berkeley, then they talk about American Indians. It says this time Bacon armed himself with men who surrounded the state house and threatened violence. He later allowed to wage war against American Indians without interference from the government. Berkeley had no choice but to give in, and so began Bacon's rebellion. So they did a rebellion against supposedly what rebellion? You've been attacking the Indians. Okay, what are you rebelling about? You've been attacking the Indians the whole time. So, but anyway, let's go on. And still in their land. Berkeley, now governor, is now forced to turn control of Jamestown over to Bacon. So the guy who started the rebellion, Bacon, took over Jamestown from Berkeley in July 1676. And then Nathaniel Bacon made his supporters pledge allegiance to him by signing an oath promising to fight against Berkeley as well as any troops sent from England to support Berkeley. So they're just talking about the war, the fighting amongst themselves, trying to bring structure, I guess, among their colonies. And it says the signatures signed by Bacon turned his attention to the American Indians once again. So they want to start focusing on the Indians, trying to steal more territory for themselves and hoard the resources. That's what that's all about. And it says Bacon's rule was short-lived. In September 1776, Berkeley had gathered enough troops to try to retake Jamestown. And so this is pretty much going into details about them fighting among themselves. And it says Berkeley, let's read. Bacon built up his own troops, promising freedom to any slave or indentured servant who support his cause. See, nobody should believe these guys. Okay, he promised to give slaves. See, he wanted people. And that's what they do to this very day. They want you to fight for them for different causes and then promise you all these things that you're going to get and then lie. And once they get what they want, they go, oh, what are you talking about? They don't keep their word. Especially with those 400 treaties they had made with the indigenous people and never honored not one of them. Why should we trust them? I'm just saying. Indigenous servants supported his cause. Bacon won the battle. In doing so, he decided that Jamestown was a threat to him because British troops could land reinforcement troops there. He came to the conclusion that Jamestown needed to be destroyed. On the night of September 1776, Bacon set Jamestown on fire. I didn't know this. This is new information. Wow. About a month later, Bacon died suddenly, and Berkeley regained control of the government. Berkeley hanged more than 20 men for taking part in the rebellion. Jamestown never recovered from the fire, and the capital was eventually moved several miles inland into Williamsburg in 1699. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that they were fighting. The Europeans were. Well, I knew they were, but I didn't know it was like this among the colonies. So they were fighting among themselves too, not just against the American Aborigines. That's interesting to know. But at the same time, they were still trying to keep their eye on the Indians, or trying to find more ways to steal from them and hoard the resources for themselves. Anyway, this is how it began, and I just wanted to do this video for this. One of the viewers was asking me to talk about how slavery began, and sort of how it started. And I just wanted to show how it sort of started with them trip backing, starting these colonies and attacking the villages and kidnapping the indigenous people. At first they said that they had us doing indentured services, but then eventually the time period was added on and on. They came up with more and more laws and stuff to try to justify keeping the people in perpetual work without paying them. And it got to the point where it eventually turned into slavery, and they became so evil to the point, really evil, to the point that they were making it where they were slaves, including their offsprings. And that's how slavery began, and they greenwashed the history books and trying to justify everything and cover up the lies and not showing the truth of what actually took place. But I'm gonna do some more of these videos. It will be interesting. If y'all wanted to check them out, check this out and see how they established these colonies and what year. It goes into details very thoroughly, exactly what took place. But just keep in mind that this article is very biased. It's based on Great Caucasians' point of view only. It does not show the truth of what actually happened to the American Aborigines and show the true, depiction of them. And it's still slanted towards Great Caucasians and their point of view and their thoughts. It's not very factual. It's not based on facts and new findings. That's just recently been taking place in these current, last, I said, couple of decades. With the Aborigine bone showing that we were here, and showing more darker complexion people what they actually look like, and showing the old pictures and statues that they actually had of the people that actually lived here during that time period. Yeah, but I'm sleepy, you guys. I'm getting tired. I'm finna go to bed. I just wanted to share another video and share another page that I found. This is a good teaching source, but it's good to educate our children. That's why I say it's very important that we create more materials for our kids that shows a depiction of who we are, and share our story from what actually happened to the American Aborigines based on the stories and that were passed on down of our lineage, our true lineage from our grandparents, and from our ancestors. And it's a great way to honor them. But please like this video and thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm not sure if I'm on Facebook, but I'm not sure if I'm going to stay on Facebook, but I'll keep y'all posted on that. I'm working on a website. I'm going to put up a link below when I'm done. Still working on it, and I'm developing an online school. I'm putting that together in a store. I'm working on that as well. So when I get more of my projects together, you guys, I'll put links to those as well. But peace, family, and be blessed. Bye-bye.